So, after reading the article Understanding Race and Privilege, right? The first question I'd like to ask is, what do y'all think is privilege?
I think privilege is what people in the upper hand of society get. They have more rights than us. They get away with more stuff than we would.
I wouldn't call it rights. I would call it special treatment.
Yeah, I agree with what Simone and Lorraine said. I feel like it's like something that's given to someone and they don't have to work for it. It's just there for them, and then they could just benefit off of that.
I would say that privilege is something that you don't earn, but it's given to you. Like, people don't really understand, like, I guess the benefits of having privilege, because not everybody has privilege.
Who do y'all believe is mainly affected by privilege?
What do you mean by have privilege?
Like, affected in like a negative way.
Minorities, basically, or just anybody who isn't
Like in the same class.
I don't want to put this in a okay term, light skinned.
I feel like
White.
I disagree with Lorraine because it's not a specific class. It's based on color. So like you could say race. When it comes to privilege, I feel like no matter what color you are, I feel like the blacks will still, whether they have money or not, still be discriminated. So like let's say for example, in current events, like let's say someone of color who is rich right now, but still is being discriminated by police officers and getting pulled over for things that they were allegedly doing, like speeding or whatever. And like let's say, alright, so I'm gonna relate this to another topic. So like there's a topic I brought up yesterday, whereas a white rich upper class person who moved himself from that higher class to a lower class neighborhood, right? And had performed a bad law breaking stunt, as in where it involved a shootout, right? And out of him and the group of black people that were caught, he managed to not go to jail in due time for what he committed with the other people, and the black people were put to jail for something that he also did, but apparently their color got them where they are now.
I agree with you, and I'd like to relate that to paragraph 8 in the article, where it states that how it basically impacts your people's first impressions, i.e. like, in the paragraph it says like white people are generally assumed to be law-abiding until they show that they are not. On the other hand, people of color, particularly African Americans or Latinos, are routinely assumed to be criminals or potential criminals until they show that they are not.
I want to add on to what Shaq said. In paragraph 3 it also says that each of us, in the beginning, it says each of us has an identity that shapes how we see ourselves and others. And then like a few sentences down, it says influences or experience, they also set the course for how we view the world. Basically, like based on how somebody looks or race, people are quick to stereotype them, which is always a misconception, because like Shaq was saying, like if a black person, as soon as they look at a black person, they're gonna be like, oh my god, he's a ghetto person, or he acts like he's gangster. But also there's also white people or like colored people that will also act the same way, but people will look at them as how they would look at a black person.
I agree with what Brianna said, and also like in paragraph 3, like towards the last sentence, it's like not only towards race, but it's also like the same for like the people, like depending on like their gender or like their sexual orientation or like their characteristics. Like they're also like some people have more privileges. Like let's say like you're a gay black male, there might be also like a gay white male, but he'll probably get more privileges even though he's gay. But since he's white, people will probably he'll have more privileges than the black male because he's like of his skin color and his race.
Alright, well, I'd like to forward this to another question. Basically is, do you think having privilege is wrong? And do you think, for example, according to paragraph 4, which will continue on the question. Like they say, many like white Americans here are not aware or may avoid considering how simply like being white counts as like special status experiences, right? So do you feel like having privilege is wrong, or that every like a white person should inherently know it as well?
I feel like having privileges is wrong due to the matter of the fact that the white people have privileges. Yet, how would I put this? Like, let's say, you know how there are white people who have intentions of taking advantage of their privileges, and there are some people who have no knowledge of what they are capable of having, but yet they still perform the acts of what they have that we don't have. So like, let's say, because I saw this line in paragraph 4. No. Oh yeah, paragraph 5, right? So let's say, it states how in a shopping store or like any market of that nature, where a white man is shopping, it seems to him that he's not being harassed from the store manager or the employees or whatever. But when it comes to a black individual, they're being followed or let's say racially profiled to be doing something bad. So like let's say once you see someone entering a store, they're assumed to be doing bad. Like they'll probably come in to steal something, whereas somebody who's white don't have no type of where a white person doesn't basically have no description. Like they're considered as good people, no matter the.
I agree with Jakai's narrative on the fact that the privileges between races is unfair. I wouldn't necessarily say that having privilege is wrong, because it's not necessarily that anybody acts to be granted the privileges that they were born with. It's kind of just something that goes back to history that we can't really change at this point in time. So I don't think we should fault anybody for the privileges that they have.
I agree with what Kenny said, because I feel like the person, it's not like they asked to be given these privileges, so I don't feel like, I mean, there's obviously parts to having privilege that are wrong, because some people might use the privilege that they have, like, to do things that shouldn't be done with the privilege that you're given, but I don't feel like people should be blamed for having the privilege that they have.
I mean, nobody's blaming them. It's like the way they treat other people that's not on the same level as them, I guess.
I want to add on to what Lorraine said, because basically when you have privilege, like some people like abuse that power. Like for example, according to paragraph 4, towards the bottom it says white Americans either may not be aware of or may avoid considering how simply being white confers special status or experiences. So they don't really realize how lucky they are to have privilege, but they abuse that power in a sense.
I agree with the fact that people can abuse the power of their privileges, but I feel like we can't put that entire group of people in a section to say that they'll abuse their privileges, because there's actually some people who probably don't enjoy having those privileges, because people see them as like a higher ranked class. Like there's some snobby rich person that they think that they're higher when they don't. They might think they're on the same level as everybody else. And there's a sentence in paragraph 4 that states that recognizing that you have privilege does not require feeling guilty for your privilege. And I feel like there's probably a good chunk of people who do feel guilty that they were born with more privileges than another person, and they might feel bad for it when they don't want to, but it's not their choice.
Okay, since you mentioned that, I'd like to ask you, do you think that it's easy to discuss privilege?
I don't think it is easy to discuss privileges, because I feel like people have so many different viewpoints and opinions, and things might come off a different way from certain social classes or races that some people might find it difficult to talk about.
Alright, I was gonna say, I agree with Kenny, because it states in paragraph 7 how members of the privileged group gain many benefits by their affiliation with the dominant side of the power system. So that's kind of reflecting on the past and how the white people had an advantage on us blacks, and how they managed to for generations and generations to be successful and like grow and like make themselves even stronger and powerful against us and kind of like put us in like in the corner of like letting us suffer and let us get the bad part of what they're doing onto like on society. So like how would I put this? So basically the white people are succeeding and excelling at what they're doing and getting what they're doing done while we're being controlled and being presumed or what to be thought of people that's not really important in today's society.
I agree with what Jakai was saying, but like back to what Sheldon was asking Kenny about, like if people is it easy to speak about privilege? In paragraph 4, there's like a section where it says that people like some people feel uncomfortable like talking about like having privileges because it's like they feel like the others it says that some feel uncomfortable with the common narrative regarding social and political changes over the years because I guess this because like you can infer that people feel like even though they do have the privilege, some people don't want to have that kind of privilege because they feel like they're being like separated from like I don't really know how to say it, but like targeted.
Different.
Yeah, like people will view you different because like you were born with this privilege, and some people like even though they're given the privilege, I feel like some people don't like having the privilege.
Yeah, I looked at on to what Sheldon and Maxira said. They said many avoid these discussions as well. In the paragraph it says they avoid these discussions because it might lead to bias, anger, or guilt, or discomfort. So some people stay away from discussions like that.
I want to agree with Max, Yeva, and Sheldon because when people, like she said, like when people have certain privileges, people feel like if you bring it up, you're gonna get targeted because then they kind of feel like you're bragging about it or like you're trying to show them up because they feel like they don't have that type of privilege.
I want to add on to what Max and everyone else said. In paragraph 9, it says privilege is problematic when it screws up personal interactions and judgments. So basically, when you bring up privilege, like it's always going to be a problem because people have different viewpoints about it. So that's why people try to avoid that like conversation because nobody wants to get into like conflict with others. So they just try to avoid it. So I believe it's still going to have like conflicts when bringing up privilege anyway.
I agree, and this kind of brings up my question. Do you feel like all races should be brought impartiality, and despite the negative things that happened done in the past? So that's like saying, should black and white who like any type of white person, whether it's privileges or not, do you feel like they should like be brought together or like interact or like be united as one despite the painful past between them two?
I feel that's a bit tricky because according to paragraph 9 as well, there's like unconscious bias according to the paragraph is what it says unconscious bias as core speaks to the lack of awareness or literally not thinking about internal biases when engaging in like basically disciplinary practices, right? Like expand that mainly like let's say we were to like bring everybody out and unite. I feel like some people will engage in having an unconscious bias, like assuming the worst out of everybody, or vice versa, assuming the best. And it's not only just white people assuming black people are bad. It could also be black people assuming that themselves or other black people are bad as well.
I would just like to say that I feel that it's really unfortunate that we let history play such a big part on what happens in our current lives. And the fact that we still live with people having higher privileges than others, and the fact that we let that play a role today, I think is really unfortunate. The fact that people of color have a greater chance of being stopped than a white person. And I wish that in today's society, we could kind of remove privileges. I know it's a tricky subject, like Shaq said, and it's probably not something easy that we can do, but I can see where Jakai's coming from when he says he wants us all to be united and together and be treated equally.
I was wondering, what do you guys think about the article? You think, how do you guys feel about it? You guys read?
I think think it is trying to make us understand the concept of how these, well, privilege is based on certain groups, and want us to understand like how it shapes the person's experiences, perspective, and interaction on it.
I felt pretty uncomfortable when I was reading this because I am a man who's really rich and I really felt like I felt like I was being targeted. So yeah, I really didn't appreciate the article, but it does bring out a lot of good points about privilege. So.
I would like to say that it tends to be that way because usually people in like a higher place of privilege are not aware of it because according to the article like the daily effects of white privilege, point 15 says I do not have to educate my children to be aware of systematic racism for their own like daily physical protection. And the thing about the way like most of us here learned it, Sheldon, I don't know if you learned it as well. Mainly because like we're all like taught about this as a young age and we're aware of what goes on in society and like learn about both the good and bad sides about this. While children that are born with privilege and so on, they may not like they're not really told this because their parents usually don't see like any like basically any positive effects to tell them about this. So that's what leads them to be unaware of it and brings up why they're so uncomfortable to talk about later on in life.
Next question.
Alright. My final question I'd like to pose to the group would be, let's see. Do you think those who don't have privilege are aware of it? Meaning in terms of like, we already are aware that people that do have privilege aren't aware of it sometimes, but do you think there are some people that are being affected by not having privilege, right? Are aware of it, mainly because of like, in terms of let's say you go into the store and you feel like you're being harassed, but you feel like that's just a common thing because you see other people of your skin color being harassed. And you're never in that like sort of a grouping where you see people besides your skin color lighter not being harassed. If y'all understand what I'm saying.
No, you just went around circles.
Yeah, okay. Mainly because, I'm gonna define it. Do you feel like people that don't have privilege, do you think that they are unaware of it because they never experienced what it's like to have privilege?
Well, as a man who has privilege, I feel like if I didn't have privilege, I wouldn't be really affected by it. I'm aware of it. I just go through life and I really wouldn't have wouldn't even care,
Okay, so in Peggy McIntosh's article, Daily Effects of White Privilege, point 5, she states, I can go shopping alone most of the time. Pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. And that's part of white privilege, that they can do that like nothing. And me being a minority and an African American, they view me as a target, so they see me and they feel the need to follow me because, they would automatically assume that I would most likely rob or something, or like there's something up. And it's more than just not having money. Even if I was a wealthy black person, they still would be suspect of it.
Wait, where you getting that money from? I don't know, like.
I would like.
I want to bring up that whole daily effects of white privilege. I feel like it's just a white lady with a lot of privileges because in point 14, she was like, I can arrange to protect my children most of the time from people who might not like them. I feel like, number one, that's being on her part for her child, but also it's just the fact that she feels like she could do the most and like somebody else other than in her
Race?
no, like in her place, meaning like white privilege. I feel like she thinks that she's the only one that can actually protect her child and pay people to protect her child. And the whole list, she's basically saying that she has more privileges than anybody else, like any other minority. So as in like Hispanics, blacks, and all of that. She's basically saying that.
I would like to add on to that basically. In one of the recent videos we watched in terms of like the race of like privilege, if you all remember it, when it all like the 4 different people were running, the 2 white people and 2 black people. If y'all notice, like towards the end of the video, it was like clearly shown that like the white man would have more privilege than the white woman, right? So considering like this white woman would have like was able to list at least like 50 privileges that she alone herself would have, considering she's a white woman. What do y'all think or estimate like a white man would say or have?
Probably even more.
Yeah. I feel like you could probably relate to like most of these things that she wrote down, and you could probably add more to like not only because he's white but also because he's a male. Because I feel like male have more privileges than females.
I feel like if a person of color was to read this, he or she will probably question everything that's on that list. He or she will probably be like, oh, is that even true for me? Or can that even be possible? So like the number 5, when it was like being followed, I cannot be followed around the store. A person of color probably be like, okay, I will be followed, and question everything that's on that list.
I think a lot of people need to understand that privilege is based on a lot of things, not just race. It could be how much money you have, your sex, your sexuality, and all of that combined, it'll play a big role. Because I can say that for myself, and I hope for everybody else in here, while we were reading, I don't think every single one of us could say this all applied to us at all. Like, I read some of these and I'm just like, that would not happen to me. Like, point 5, when they brought up, you can go shopping alone without being followed or harassed. I can count.
Who's following you?
I count the amount of times that me and my, we did actually get kicked out of the store when me and Maxiro walked in together doing absolutely nothing, but because I don't know why they felt the need to throw us out. And I recall one time I was shopping with my mom, and I think we were at BJ's. This one employee. Okay, we're too high.
He's shaking his leg. He's like,
No cry, Cameron.
I'm good. You know, I can count the amount of times people come up to us saying, "Are you sure you want this? It might be too expensive for you." And we're like, we know what we picked out. We know what we want. People, black people don't have to worry about that. They put something in their cart, they walk away and tell you about this.
I remember every time me, Maxer, and Jalen would be going to Ulta, like, that's what makeup stuff. Yeah, I know. Every time we go to Ulta, the security guard is literally always following us around. Like, if we would go like into a certain section, the security guard would be standing there like this and like looking at us.
I mean, because they know there's certain girls that just steal stuff.
They did that to me too. There's whole other teenagers, but the funny thing is, me and my sister, teenage girls, right? And we're black, dark skinned. 2 other girls, light skinned teenagers, and the other row. Where's the security? Of course, the row I'm in. So that says a lot about privilege, because every time I move, he feels the need to go to the same exact row. Is it a coincidence? No.
Yes, I have
I mean,
friends
yes.
too.
Wait, no. Is that a coincidence? Yes.
No, you were right.
It's honestly true what Simone said. I'm sorry.
No, shoulder, man.
It's honestly true what Simone said, because there'd be a lot of like older women and also like light skinned teenagers. We're all light skinned, but like they're like white people, actual white people, and they know we're Hispanic because every time we go out, we always speak Spanish. And they could literally be walking around, running around the whole store, having fun and everything, and then all you see is the security guard eyeing us down, walking down that aisle, and the other aisle.
Alright, so continuing on that, right? Do you feel like events like these, do you think it's based on like unknown, like unconscious bias, and do you believe they can be stopped? And that will be the final question.
Yes, because I feel like a lot of it goes back to history, because if you think about it, it was not that long ago. Segregation was not that long ago. The people that was here during segregation is still alive right now. And those are the people that sat there and raised the people, those adults that have these privilege. They were raised by people born in segregation. And those people born in segregation were against white people, black people. So I'm not generalizing every white person, but there are a lot of white people that were born during segregation, and they look at black people like in a negative way. So it was not that long ago. So they're still stuck with that. It's hard to have this change. And of course, other white people around our age that's racist, or in their 20s or something, they grew up in that. So that's what they were raised in. So until history is actually history, then it's not gonna change. And so they need to be more like woke about it and understand. And privilege is not necessarily, I'm not saying it's like wrong, but I'm saying everybody deserves it, not just one particular race. I'm not saying that like, oh, all of us should be stalked at the store, making sure we're not stealing. I'm saying all of us should be able to go into a store and be fine. That's what I'm saying.
I would like according like with that too. Like there's many different ways the privilege needs to be addressed and reformatted in order for it to benefit everyone. Like Kenny said earlier on, privilege can affect basically, body type, orientation, sexual orientation, your color, like very many things, right? Gender as well, right? So I feel like it's more than just like, including like the times of segregation in history, there's like many things that needs to be like reformatted in terms for like, not only just unknown bias, but like privilege in general to be like rechanged. But then the problem that I see like, that I wonder is that like, as the article says, right, this one which is understanding race and privilege, it basically talks about unknown biases in like subconscious, like you're not actively doing it, but it's just something in your mind, which makes me think, is it possible to actually get rid of it? Because as each one of us grows up, we're aware of these things going on in our lives. We see how adults act around us. We see how, like store security watch us. And I know every one of us has had a story like that, right? And begins to make me question is as we grow up, including, our white peers, the peers, like our peers that do have privileges, they grow up, will they continue on that trend of, having the unknown bias, or will it continue on through the generations? Or is it possible for all of us to stop in one generation? Or will it take like a slow amount of time?
I think it's gonna take a slow amount of time because I remember when I was growing up, although I'm a very privileged person, I remember walking to a GameStop once and then the lady at the counter said like, if you're gonna buy something, right? As you're gonna buy something, you gotta get out. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy something because I don't have any money, and then I had to leave. So.